We are going to talk about standards today. And before I share my screen and have the slides up and all of that, my name is Ilana Hubert-Katz. As Graham said, I am in Maryland with Keller Williams Legacy. I am the Director of Coaching and Director of Teamerage, as well as MAPS Coach and KW Trainer. And really excited about this topic because this was my biggest failure of all times, more than once. They always say, all the people, they always say that we learn from our failures. Well, this is the biggest one learned. So I love sharing it. So other people who haven't maybe failed yet at it, or who can be in the same boat with me, can just learn faster and move faster. So before we get started and I share the screen, I actually would love to hear from some people. Now, this could be in the chat box. You can come off a mute. Raise your, at the very bottom, there's a digital hand you can raise. When you hear the word setting standards, what do you think of? In other words, what are you hoping to get out of the next 30, 40 minutes together? I'm looking at the chat box. I'm like, okay, someone's typing. Someone typing? I wish it was one of those, when you're on the phone and you see the little dots that some people are typing. I wish Zoom would have that. Dan, thank you. Systems and habits. Systems and habits. I like that. Especially that word habits. Yes. What else? A high quality benchmark that the market center will hold themselves accountable to. Ooh, yes. High quality benchmark to hold to. Yes. What else? Processes, systems, habits, processes, high quality benchmark. Absolutely. Is setting standards. I'm going to ask two questions right now. Okay, the first one. So answer yes or no. Chat box. Is setting standards easy? I see no. I see yes. Okay. All right, next question. Oh, here we go. Seems easy to set. Hold on, wait, I just lost it. Oh, seems easy to set, not always easy, not always easy to stay on target. So my next question was going to be, if setting standards could be easy, are holding people accountable to standards easy? Two different things. We set, but we have to also hold. So is holding people accountable? Yep, there you go, Alex. Holding others accountable is the hard part. 100%, right? So I'm going to share a little story, and then we're going to jump into the slides here and some of the content. And throughout this, please, this is your time. Ask the questions in the chat box, come off mute, raise your digital hand. I'll be monitoring that as well. So I started coaching, got into real estate with Keller Williams in 2015. Started as an inside sales associate, moved into being an agent. I've worn almost every hat except for MCA. I have the highest regard for MCAs because I sat in that seat for like 5 days and was like, wow. Became a coach in 2017, been a coach ever since. And when I became a coach, it went something like this. So went to a different Keller Williams office. They asked me to come down and be their coach. They never had coaching there. So like, hey, come down, build the coaching department, be a coach. I was like, oh my God, sounds great. Right. I was a director at a university prior to getting into real estate. So I ran teams. So I'm like, oh, okay, this should be easy. I ran teams of people. They were very successful at the university that I ran. So this should be really easy. I see like some laughter there. I see you, Judy. I see you, Judy. I know we had a conversation. Wow, was that a huge smack in the face? No, it was not easy at all. So what ended up happening was I get in there thinking it would be easy. Great. Here's my agreement. I bring people into coaching. Bringing people into coaching was super easy. That was very easy. Sitting down, talking about their why, getting to know them, right? Very easy. But then I put standards in place and attempted keyword attempted, to hold people accountable to them. And it failed miserably. Does anybody want to take a guess why? There's multiple reasons. Many of them all my fault. Any guesses? I was at a huge, just big old learned moment, as I like to say. Any guesses? Oh, once you bond with them, it's harder. And there you have it. Oh, it's like Judy and I talked before. That's it right there. So I became friends with everybody, like hanging out, going out, having a good time. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but what ended up happening was I nurtured them. I became friends with them, and I let them off the hook time and time again. So I set standards, and I was like, nope, you're okay. Oh, you know what? No, I don't need, that's fine. Maybe next week, right? I let them go. The second you let a standard go, it's out the window. It's gone, right? You can get it back, and we're going to talk about how in just a minute. So if you are the one sitting there going, I had standards, I lost them, nobody does them, one of the things we will talk about is how do you get it back? How do you start fresh? And then when you lose them again, how do you start fresh again? Because guess what? I not only did that once with a coaching team, it took me 2 times of doing it for me to finally learn. Now, if it happens a third time, I'm just going to call up some of you and be like, all right, I need somebody to smack me. Okay. But 2 times for me to learn this, because sometimes, I'm hard-headed. So yeah, I made friends with them, let the standards just go to the wayside, didn't hold them accountable. The other issue that was the other learned lesson was I made the assumption, bad word, I made the assumption that 1099 non-employee real estate agents don't want standards and won't show up for things and won't work if you have them too high. That was in my head. That was literally, I don't know if anybody has ever had that thought, or it's just me. If somebody else had that thought, please share in the chat box, or I'm going to be just all alone out here. So I was like, no, you know what? I can't set them that high. They're 1099s. Why would they do that? They're not my team, like real team. Like I hired them as employees, W-2'd employees, right? So making friends with them right up the get-go, not holding them to standards, and then having the wrong mindset of they're 1099 real estate agents who don't want standards were huge learned lessons on my part. So let's talk through setting standards. Now, if any of you were in a previous class that I did a class all about enhancing your standards. That was through Fast Track. There's recordings on that as well, but it talked through very specific standards that we could set. I am going to go into a little bit detail on that in this call as well. But in this one, what we're really going to go through is let's define standards. Let's first define them. And then once we define them, how do we type them out in a way to present them to our agents or represent them, if we need to reset them, to our agents to gain their buy-in? Right? Because it's all about buy-in. I can sit here and be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to have Dan and Judy and Alex and Graham and all these people on my team, and you're going to sign this. You're going to adhere to these standards because I say so. Don't do that. That's not the right way. That's also a good learned lesson, right? It has to be buy-in. Why is it important for them? Right? And then at the end of the day, why does it help increase some conversion? Why did I put those 2 things together? Standards and conversion. Right? All right, so let's dive in. And again, as we go through this, please, chat box, raise your digital hand, ask questions. So what are your standards, right? Standards are based on your goals. Notice I'm saying here, your goals. You are the one setting them, not the agent. Whether you are a coach running a coaching team, whether you are an agent running a team or about to start up a team, whether you are on leadership and running a Teamerage or about to start up a Teamerage, For those not on here, not knowing what Teamerage means, it's a brokerage run team, for simplest terms. The standards start with us as the leader. So what are your goals as the leader and your values? Now, if it's the Teamerage through the Market Center, that's sitting down as a Market Center leadership team and figuring out together, what do you want your goals and standards to be, to then work backwards to set the standards. Then standards typically cover aspects such as quality, timeliness, communication, professionalism, ethics, right? They're a representation of you as the leader, as well as the Market Center they're in and all the agents around them at that Market Center. So how do you want them to show up? How do you want them to represent, right? What are your standards around timeliness? Now, when we talk about timeliness, this could be responding to leads. Timeliness might be showing up for, do you have huddles? Do you have stand-ups? Do you have practice sessions, right? So there's an agent here. I'm going to share stories as we go along with this. I hope that's okay. One of the agents in our Market Center, wonderful, wonderful person. She is really hitting the ground running. She's getting buyers and sellers, and she's only been with us now 4 months. And every time she has set a time to meet with either myself or my other coach, she shows up late. Now, we show her our calendar. We invite her to the calendar invite. She sees our time blocking, and we teach time blocking every single week. And she shows up late. So as a leader, we have two options. We have a choice to make. Now, back when I first started coaching, the choice that I made was, oh, that's fine. That's fine. We're still going to meet right now, and I'll just push off this other person. Yeah. You want to know how to burn trust fast? Do that. I had to rebuild trust from the ground up. It was humbling, very humbling, right? So that is a choice you could make. I don't recommend it from personal experience. The other choice you can make is, hey, wow, you know what? I'll call this agent Joe, just to name it somebody. Hey, Joe, I know we were set to meet at 10 a.m. It's now 10:30. Now, I do want to show you on my calendar, I do have another person I'm meeting with at 11, and I don't want to be late for that, right? Because they're trusting me to be on time, just like I'm trusting them to be on time. The standard is that we show up to our appointments, just like you don't want to be late for your listing or buyer appointment, because then why would they hire you? So now we're educating them on setting standards. We're holding ourselves to a standard. We're holding them to a standard. I'm going to say, we're going to meet for this 30 minutes, and then we're going to have to reschedule. Now, there was a moment where she showed up so late that it was literally 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left in an hour time slot. And I looked at her and said, there is nothing we can cover in 5 minutes. We are not meeting today. She got extremely angry. No lie, she got very angry. She went to our team leader. Team leader was like, well, your appointment was at 10. You showed up at 10:55. Do you expect to walk into a dentist office? Literally, a team leader said this. Do you expect to walk into the dentist office 55 minutes after your appointment and them see you? They're going to reschedule. They're going to cancel. Oh, she needed another voice. She needed a different voice. She was expecting me as her coach to break standard, and I wouldn't do it. So she needed another voice to either let her off the hook, which he wasn't about to do, or teach her standards again, right? And then how do standards align with your team's vision? Again, when you think about your goals and your values, what is that vision you have? What is the vision when it relates to quality, timeliness, communication, professionalism, ethics? I'm sure there's plenty of other topics in there. By the way, if you have other things that you hold agents accountable, please share them in the chat box. I love these moments where we're online together and other people are sharing as well. So we're learning not just from this, but from everybody on this call, right? It's funny, when I was creating this slide deck and I was putting this topic on here, do agents want and need standards? I couldn't think of bullet points to actually, I had lots of reasons and lots of things to say. I couldn't think of actual bullet points to put on the slide. Just simply a yes, just big old yes. So let's talk about this. Do agents actually want standards? We know they need them, right? We know they need them. We'll talk a little bit more into why they need them, but do agents want them? Real estate agents, 1099 non-employees, do they want standards? Let's open this up. Do they want them? Obviously, the screen says yes, but why? Why is that a huge yes on the screen? Oh, they are competitive by nature. Yes. Love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're competitive by nature. Dad, I love that. It's like raising kids. Oh, it really is. It really is. I have a daughter. She is 25. She just moved to Japan a few months ago. And I absolutely went through, I was a single mom for many years, and I went through many of years of letting her off the hook on standards to having to re-go back and set them in the household. Right. Yeah. Right. So here's the thing, by nature, most, let's take this back a minute. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to use, I have a background in psychology, so I want to use that a little bit right now. Okay. Paid all the money for a degree, might as well use a little bit. So if you think about how we grew up, how people grew up, we went to tradition, not everybody, I'm going to just say traditionally. You go from elementary school into middle school, into high school, and you have teachers holding you to standards. You have to show up for class on time. There's a bell that literally tells you to show up. So you have, 12 years of your life when your brain is forming, being taught, I follow a bell and I'm following this person to tell me what to do. Right? Then at some point in your life, you get into what's called the real world. And the real world, we get, let's say they get a job somewhere. They get a job at, I'm hungry for pizza right now, so I'm going to use Pizza Hut. Okay. So they get a job at Pizza Hut and they have hours they have to adhere to. If they don't, they get fired. Right? They have standards. Then all of a sudden, they maybe get another job and it's at a marketing firm and they have a boss and they have standards, or they get written up and they get fired. We are programmed from a young age to go through life with standards. All of a sudden, an agent gets into real estate and there are no standards. I mean, okay, there are like commissions, real estate commissions where we have certain ethics standards, certain things, and we get fined, we get in trouble, right? There are certain standards we need to follow. But when I'm talking about standards, I'm talking about you don't have a boss, right? So they actually long for standards. They truly do. But they're not going to come out and be like, hey, you know what, Dan, I really need you to give me standards today. Because our brains don't work that way. It's not wired that way. But when you start actually delivering to them, when you sit down with someone, you say, hey, here are the standards and why they're important that I'm going to hold you accountable to, but why they're important to you. That person will look at you, and almost everyone, not everyone, you're going to have people who push back. Almost everyone's going to be like, great, thank you. Right. So some different categories, right? These are just a few. What are some areas we can create standards around? Do we want standards in training and development? Yes. Right? They need skill sets. The agents who continually improve their skill sets will always outperform the agents who don't. So what standards are we setting to help agents continually improve their skill set so they can hit their goals? Notice how that standard turned into what's benefit to them. Lead generation. What time commitment are they giving to their business? I don't care how they lead generate. I don't care if they go to a dog park every day and talk to fellow dog lovers to get business versus calling expireds on their phone or going and door knocking a neighborhood. But what time are they committing to their business to do this? To be able to hit their goals and have the life they want to lead. Do we have standards around follow-up? If we're going to send them leads, this one right here, in my opinion, is a 100% non-negotiable. If there are no standards around follow-up, or if you have standards and they're not following them, do not give them leads. You might as well just throw the money out the window, right? Because the money is in the follow-up. The conversion is in the follow-up, right? If there are leads generated through Facebook ads or something that's coming through their phone that they have to click on, or we're sending them something, are we having a standard around response time? Or we're like, hey, I'm sending you something whenever you get to it. Yeah. Oh my God, I sent you someone who clicked on something today. You didn't get to it until next week. That's fine. No, it's not. That is not fine. Because they just lost it, right? There's a proven statistic that shows that, oh my goodness, I totally lost the actual number. So if somebody knows it, put in the chat box. There is I want to say it's like 15 seconds. It's something really fast. So there is a statistic that shows that if we receive a lead in X amount of time, respond back to that lead through a text or a phone call, we have a much higher percent of earning the business. And I want to say it's something like 5 seconds or 15 seconds or something like that. If somebody knows the exact amount, please throw it in the chat box. And then real estate activities, right? I saw Judy put in the chat box something around tracking, right? They have to submit something at the end of every week, right? What are you required? These are business owners, or let me rephrase, business owners in training. We are training them to own a business. So why are we not holding them to a standard of tracking it, of knowing their numbers, right? Do we have a standard around open houses? Do they have to hold them? Do they not have to hold them? I don't have a standard around open houses anymore. I used to, but one of the teams in my office does. An agent cannot join their team without doing an open house every single weekend, at least one open house for their first 90 days. That's a standard on their team, right? Do we have a standard around setting appointments? There's another team that I coach actually in a different state. And that team I love the standard. That team has a standard that after you achieved and graduated from your 90 days, 30, 60, 90, you should be averaging a minimum of 1 set appointment per week. And then after 6 months, 2. If they don't do that, they actually get on an action plan with that team. And then if they still don't do it, they are asked to leave the team. That's a standard, right? And then of course, database management, right? Without a database, they don't have a business. So why are we not holding them to a standard of it? All right, very busy screen, but I was trying to shorten it and it was just too much verbiage and I just loved it so much. I had to make it busy. I'm not a big fan of busy PowerPoint screens, but take a picture of this one because I love it. I just want to see if there's any questions as I look at this. All right. Oh, I love what Teresa said here. I love a program that can be followed. You know what? That's exactly what a standard is. A standard is simply a guideline of something to be followed. It's clarity. That's what standards are. Standards are clarity, right? Clarity around how to be consistent. Now, consistency is twofold. Consistency starts with us as leaders. We have to be, I shared the story in the beginning of how I was not consistent at all. I had all these I spent hours typing up all these beautiful standards on a piece of paper. Oh, it was great. And then I spent all this time having people sign it. And then I was not consistent with holding them accountable. I let them all off the hook. Way too easy. And they all talked, by the way. So the conversation that started happening was, don't worry about it. Ilana won't hold you to that. That literally was the conversation happening. It felt horrible. But it was eye-opening to be like, wow, okay, what do I need to change? How do I go back and reset them? We'll talk about that in a second. We talked about lead management, super important, right? Customer service excellence. Why not having a standard around that? How are they showing up? Are they showing up on time for their appointments? Are they showing up representing themselves and the brokerage and the market center and you as their leader the way you want them to? Right? And then, of course, that's going to help them lead to more referrals. So benefit us, benefit them. Again, we talked about training development. You right there, that right there is the increased conversion. Lead management, training and development, accountability, increased conversion. If you just start, now here's the thing, if you don't have standards yet, or you need to go back and reset standards, start really small. Don't do what I did. Do not have this huge document of all these beautiful standards typed out. Start with 1 or 2. 3, maybe at the max, because you yourself need to follow up on them consistently and you have to build a habit around them. You have to build a habit around talking the standards. So start with 1, build a habit around it. Maybe you add something 30 days later, build a habit. And then be really, be transparent with the agents, right? Let the agents know, hey guys, we're going to reset some standards and here's why. Here's how it's going to help you. And we're going to do it in a way that's going to be almost like a stepping stone, right? Like a ladder. I'm going to start with 1. The first one we're going to do is something around training and development. In 30 days, I'm going to add another one. Now I'm just using 30 days as an example. Maybe it's 15 days, right? Maybe you don't give them a deadline. Maybe it's after we really know the standard and really start building a habit around it, I'm going to be adding another one. Let them know what's to come. Let them know that this is not the only standard I'm holding you to. I'm going to hold you to this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And here's why, right? And then finally, accountability. Standards create a culture of accountability. Standards are the accountability. And we have to hold them accountable for the standards, right? It's a two-way street, right? So when you have the standards in place, when you're talking them, just second nature, right? Everybody knows them. The agents are speaking, they know them so well that they're the ones telling other agents about them. Right? That's when you really know you have a standard in place, is when you have an agent, right? I was teaching a class right before this, and the class was called, what did you say? And it was all about the power of words. And after the class was over, I had people on Zoom and in the room. I said, all right, what am I going to ask all of you to do right now? And like clockwork, except for one agent who just joined us today, literally signed paperwork right before the class, every single agent in that room said, we have to go practice within the next 24 hours for 15 minutes max, or minimum, excuse me. That's a standard that is like a broken record. I just need to click play, right? So because it's been said so many times, I don't have to say it. They say it. It's taken months to get to that level and years of heartache of not doing it. So this was short and sweet. I do want to add one thing in before we get to questions and kind of open this up a little bit for anything you want to, go into more detail on. But I do want to touch on one thing, and that is, how do you rebuild them if you lost them? Okay. How do we rebuild them if we lose standards? So if you have a team or a Teamerage or a coaching department, and you have the learned lesson that I had, Sue, welcome to the club. How do we go back? It's 2 things. It's number 1, be vulnerable and transparent. People respect that. It builds trust, builds honesty, right? And that doesn't mean you need to go in a room and start crying. Okay. It just means you need to set a meeting for everybody to be in the room together, or on Zoom, preferably in a room. Bring lunch, they show up. Because you want everybody to hear the same message at the same time. Or what will happen is one person will think you're talking to them, another person will hear something different, and then they will say, well, wait a minute, that's not what I heard. You need them in the same place at the same time, and you need to record it for anybody who didn't attend to send to, and hold them to a standard of watching it. And then in that room, what you're going to do is you're just going to open up, hey guys, one of the things that I started putting in place didn't really go as planned. I dropped the ball. I am so sorry. I dropped the ball. Here's what I want to do. I want to reset this tone, and I want to reset some clarity and standards to really help you in this fourth quarter moving into the new year. Because that's what's going to be the missing piece of this puzzle for all of you. So in front of you is a sheet of paper with some new standards we're going to start with, and I'm going to build upon. And then you go through them, walk down each one. What does it mean to them? Right. So again, the most important thing is do it all together in a space together. Not, I tried resetting standards in one-off meetings, right? Where I'd sit down, let's say I meet with Judy right now, and we have a 30-minute session, and I reset standards. And then I sit down, I meet with Alex, and I reset standards, and sit down and meet with Dan. What ended up happening, number one, that's not scalable. That's a lot of time to have the exact same conversation. And then the second thing that happened was, so it was a lot of time on task, took too much time to actually get through everyone. And the second thing that ended up happening was one of the agents called the other agent, and they heard something different. I said the same phrase, same things, but they heard something different. So because they were not in the same room, they thought that I had different standards, and somebody then lost complete trust in me. And they literally went and said, I don't want to coach with Ilana anymore. I don't trust her. Painful words, and it happens, right? I did get her back. We talked. We're all good now. We went off a coffee. We're back on board. But it took a minute. I had to rebuild that, right? So again, I wanted to share those stories and personal experiences and lessons learned that I had for anybody who's in that same boat, or to avoid getting in that boat. All right, so let's open up questions, thoughts, aha moments, things you took away from this that you're going to walk away and implement. Love to hear from one person. A standard that I have on all my trainings is to never get off.
I'll start.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So I'm dialing in from the UK, so it's a little bit different here. And we've got maybe our own difficulties to overcome, because the fees, for example, are lower in the UK, so our agents have to do more appointments maybe. But also geographically, we're quite spread, although we're a much smaller place than you guys. Our agents are quite far away, so we can't get them all in together a lot. So it is very much a one-on-one coaching situation right now. And we find it really hard to entice our agents to Market Center. So how do you entice agents in more easily?
Oh, great question. Well, thank you for being on this. And I'm going to give you two answers. The first is going to be enticing them in, but the second will then be engaging them on a Zoom, enticing them to engage more on a Zoom. Lessons I learned in 2020. So bringing them into a market center. When you're completely spread out, so while I'm in Maryland, we have agents in our market center. So I live an hour away. We have one agent who lives an hour and a half away. We have one agent who lives 2 hours away. We'll never get 100% in. That will never happen, right? But we need to find a hook for them to come in. A hook, number one, food. Okay, now that's not the only thing, but that does speak loudly. Not providing a Zoom option. or whatever your online platform is, if you don't provide it for this one moment. By the way, this one's hard to do. It took me a long time after 2020 to be like, what do you mean no Zoom? Like, I don't understand. Like, everything's Zoom. I have a training that I have coming up in 2 weeks, and it's being marketed in person only. And I have so many agents who have texted me like, what's the Zoom link? Is it going to be on Zoom? Nope. It's a workshop. It's in person only. We're going to be having lunch. We have special guest speakers. We have leads we're handing out to people come in. We have a little surprise. We got prizes. We have we make it fun. We got prizes, we got food, we got leads. But again, don't offer the other option. Okay. So that is one way. The other thing I'm going to say regarding Zoom is if you're having a session like this, right? Let's say you want to pull everybody together and you want to have, whether it's a training or you want to have a standard setting session, and you know that the majority will be on Zoom. You need to set a tone, and that tone needs to be through phone calls, text messages, and emails. It can't just be email because agents don't read. And it needs to be, we're going to have a special session on this date running for, I usually do things for 45 minutes with agents because it's like a mental thing for them. When I say 45, even though it usually goes to an hour and 15 minutes, when I say 45, they show up. Requirements are that you're not on your phone, you're in a place where your camera can be on, right? And you're able to participate, right? So you have like requirements: camera on, able to participate. Again, you're setting a standard for the Zoom, to not repeat that word 100 times, but I'm going to repeat it, right? The thing is, though, you have to tell them ahead of time. You can't just surprise people on the Zoom. Like if I came on today's Zoom, like, hey, everybody, so you can only stay on if your cameras are on, half the people are going to pop off, right? Because some might be listening to this, some might be doing other things. I'm a leader, I get it, right? Some might be driving, right? So you got to tell them ahead of time. So you can have this 100% on Zoom. You really can if you set the tone ahead. Did that help at all?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Let me check the chat box here. Let me see here. If it's an area I've been working on, where to start, it can be a challenge. I'm a single agent currently making happen decisions. So as a single agent, setting standards for yourself, by the way, as an agent is really difficult. I know, I was an agent, single for many years. I mean, I'm still an agent, but not active in the field. And if you are trying to do that, I recommend finding a partner, whether that's a coach, whether that is a fellow partner, fellow agent, finding somebody to help sit down and set standards with, right? And then starting really small with them. And then having the accountability partner, because standards are only good with the accountability behind it, right? So it was supposed to say standards for conversions, not conversations. Not sure about so sorry about the mishap there. I will say this though regarding conversations. Okay, so let me add something in here regarding, because we do have a few more minutes. And because it did say in the, I guess, add out there conversations as opposed to conversions, let me go back here for a minute. If we want to think about standards and conversations, actually, I'm not going to bring up a slide. I'm actually going to do this. So this class that I had right before this was all about how to say things and what to say. So it was setting standards in words we use. What's our 15-second opener? Right? So here's standards you can do in a conversation. Right? So one would be, a standard that I have with agents is you must practice this 15-second opener. Okay, and the 15-second opener is, I'm going to give a little sneak peek to it. If I can pull it up really quickly, which I probably can't, so I am just going to write it in a whiteboard. How about that? Can you guys see the whiteboard? I'm improvising. All right. So you got your intro. If any of you have ever taken the lead conversion fast track classes with Anna Kruger, she goes over this in so much detail, and they are phenomenal sessions. Absolutely phenomenal sessions on what to say, how to say it, breaking down a conversation. Okay, so for example, one of the standards I have on my Teamerage or team, or with any agents who even coaches with me, is you must type out your opener and send it to me, and then practice it 5 minutes a day for 5 days. That's a standard I have. So what that sounds like is, so if I'm calling, I'm just going to use Dan, for example. If I'm calling Dan, it might sound something like, hey, Dan, this is Ilana. I'm a local real estate agent here with Keller Williams Legacy in Maryland. Thank you so much for taking my call. I noticed that you were looking at homes online. That's really exciting. What has you thinking about making a move? 15 seconds max. So the standard is you must use this opener. Now you can change the open-ended question to something you like, but the opener must be used, right? Another standard around conversation, since we have a few minutes and that happened, another standard around conversations is practicing closing tactics. We do a fun game here where we print out the 10 different closing tactics. And then I don't know if anybody sees those 10-sided dice, right, that they have out there. And everybody has the dice. You roll the dice, and whatever dice somebody rolls, that has to be the one they practice. Right? And everybody goes around the room rolling the dice and practicing, right? So they have to practice the different closing tactics, and then they have to choose and tell, well, me, their coach, they have to tell me which one is them, is their personality, right? So I'm not going to say to the person, hey, Alex, you have to use the alternative close. Judy, you have to use the soft close, right? Because that might not be your personality. We're going to practice them all, but then the standard is you must choose one and type it out and have it hang it up and send me which one you chose. Right. So there absolutely can be standards around. The other thing with conversation, if you're an individual agent, or you run a team of agents, you can even have a standard around not just your opener, closing tactics, all of that, but you can have a standard around how you put notes in the system. All right. I'm going to give you all, since we have a few minutes, I'm going to give you all my personal cheat that I started using when I was an inside sales associate, and then I train people on now. So hold on, let me open this up. Let me clear this, clear all drawings. So this is how our agents take notes in the system, because as a coach, when I go in there and I look at people's notes and they are typing War and Peace novels, I do not have time to read that. Nor does that agent have time to go back and read all those notes that they put them for themselves. So one of the things they have to do is they have to type their notes out when they have a conversation with someone, leaving messages, things like that. Just, I don't care what your notes look like. But when they actually have a conversation with someone, their notes have to have MCAT and then the verbiage next to it. Now this stands for motivation, criteria, ability, which means financial, time frame. So for example, if I'm looking at, if I go into the system right now and look at one of my agents, so an agent yesterday I gave a lead to, she called them, she set the appointment. It's a buyer, ready to buy. So the buyer said, well, actually an investor. So I should be able today to go into the system and see something like this. Now I haven't looked yet because I only do checks on Mondays, spot checks on Mondays, but it should look like something like this, right? Investor, first time, right? 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, Baltimore City, whatever, right? Criteria 3, 2. So motivation criteria might flow into the same for sometimes. I'll say this. Bill. Oh, so there you go. 3, 2. By the way, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. That's how I abbreviate, right? And then whatever else. Ability. We'll say cash. Time frame. Before January for tax purposes. If I go into this agent's notes next Monday when I inspect this, I should see an outline like this. Now, she might not have everything filled in yet. She might be missing something because maybe the conversation needs to, she maybe got a little bit, but it has a follow-up call with a person. So it might say a few things, and then it might say underneath it, following up, next week, Wednesday. Right. But if you, again, to add into the standards when it comes to conversations, you can absolutely set standards around everything conversational. How do you open it? How do you close it? What do you require in the beginning of it? You can also even have conversational starters, right? Guidelines. They used to be called scripts. We don't call them scripts anymore, right? Conversational guidelines. Right? Words to put into our dialogue. So, Dan, thank you for pointing that out. Love that. Just wanted to go off that with a fly. Did that give you a little extra to go off of? A little extra to add on there. And yeah, when if you talk to, so MCAT, when people talk around here on my Teamerage, and agents walk around the office who coach with me, and any of them who've been with me over 90 days now, it takes a while for them to learn this, a good 90 days, not 30, 90. Any of them will say, oh, yeah, just do the MCAT. Oh, just follow MCAT. Do you do MCAT? Right. I like to shorten things because I have no memory these days. So it actually helps me and them. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Any questions? We have about a minute or two left. Any questions or anything else that anybody got out of this that you're going to implement in the next, week or two? Love whatever put in the chat. Thank you so much. MCAT, there you go. Right. There's a lot, by the way, there's something out there called LP Mama. That's the original one. If you've taken like language patterns or language of sales or any of Anna Kruger's classes, you'll hear LP Mama. It's a great script. If you ask me what it means, I can't remember it. So I had to shorten it. So I turned LP Mama into MCAT for my own brain. All right. So everybody think about your goals, your values, to sit down and really go through, and what standards do you personally want to have for yourself and for your agents. If you need anything, please reach out. Love hearing from you. Have an amazing day. Bye, everyone.